If you've been injured and need a lawyer, the firm you choose makes all the difference.
At Harrell & Harrell, we'll devote all our energy to doing what's best for you and your family.
We truly listen so we can answer your questions, evaluate the case, and negotiate powerfully for you.
We're on your side in your most difficult times.
The difference is our heart.
Trust Harrell & Harrell.
251-1111, Jacksonville.
Welcome to Women Winning Divorce with your host, Heather Quick. Heather brings over 20 years of law experience that advocates and empowers women to achieve happier and healthier lives. Each week, we provide knowledge and guidance on different aspects of family law to help lead women through the difficult and emotional legal challenges that they are facing. Listen in as she discusses issues including divorce, custody, alimony, paternity, narcissism, mediation, and other family law issues to provide insight on the journey of women winning divorce. Welcome to the show. I'm Julie Morgan, and I'm joined by your host, Heather Quick. Heather, it's good to see you again.
Thank you. It's good to see you too.
I can't believe it's already been a week since the last show. That went by like in minutes, it seems. So Heather, this week we're talking about an interesting topic, okay? And now I'm just going to be honest with everybody. When we were off the air, I said, well, has anyone asked this question or said they knew it was time even before they got married? So the topic today is, how do you know it's time and how do you prepare?
Those are big questions.
They really are. And they're so personal, right? Because for everyone, again, it's different. How does a woman know it's time for a divorce?
I think that they know before they take action and that they sit with it for quite some time, because it takes a lot of courage to take that first step and even call a divorce attorney's office. We are in a world where everything is on our smartphone. So there's a lot of research you can do. You can think about it, but to then reach out, contact a divorce attorney, then make an appointment and then show up. It's a lot of courage. And I think that by the time you do that, in your heart, you know, you may still have to resonate. You may still have to really reconcile that with taking that step, because courage takes doing something that you're afraid of because you don't know what's on the other side. But that many women, by the time they get here, they do know. And, you know, I've told many women, they'll say, what would you do? And, you know, I tell them if I believe from our conversation they're in danger or they're in an unsafe situation, I will say you need to leave. But otherwise, I'll tell them you have to make that decision. I don't live your life. I'm not in there. I can tell you based on our experience what that life will look like for you. But I also know that nothing is worth being in, you know, a dysfunctional household where you don't have respect, where you're not even heard, and that you're better off probably alone, as scary as that may be, where you can have self-respect and you can have some peace.
Peace is a powerful thing, but sometimes it comes at a cost.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And most things worth doing do.
Isn't that the truth? Is there ever a right time for divorce? I have a feeling I already know the answer to this question.
I think there's not a right time and there's not a wrong time. There is always a reason not to do something. Just like Julie, there's always a reason not to get up and not work out. All right. I mean, you know, there is. Oh, it's raining outside. Oh, there's traffic. It's too cold. Oh, I don't have my clean workout clothes. There's a lot of reasons to avoid doing something that may be painful, but worth it on the other side. And I do believe that. I think that it's that first step that's the hardest, and then just continuing to move through it, because there's always birthdays, anniversaries, holidays, deaths, weddings. There's everything, because that's life. And what can happen is that your life is going to pass you by if you're going to let all those things dictate whether or not you're going to take action and stand up for yourself.
How long do women typically contemplate a divorce before they move forward with one?
I would say, based on our experience, we find that most women say they've thought about it probably between 5 and 10 years. And thinking about it before taking action, that is a lot of things, but I don't think it's something that, in my experience, anyone takes very lightly, and they just wake up and be like, all right, I'm out today. Because the majority of people, I do find, to take those vows seriously. And plus, there's a lot you would have to do. You're intertwined with somebody, and even if you haven't been married that long, it is still the disentanglement of a lot of stuff. And I think we doubt our instincts onto whether or not it's going to work. We doubt it more. And that's what keeps women from taking action further, and men, frankly. Like, I think the instincts know, like, hey, this is not right, but maybe they don't want to tell everybody. They don't want to tell their spouse. There's not something that's glaring. Nobody cheated on one another. Nobody's been abusive. It's just, they know, like, this isn't it. We weren't meant to be together. Like, we got to move on, because then we're admitting failure. And, nobody wants to do that. So it takes time before people are able and willing to make those decisions and take those steps.
But usually there has to be like a last straw, like this is it.
Oh, I think so. I think that's true with anything. And really, when people make decisions and really change behavior, 80% of people change behavior based on the pain, not the pleasure, right? So the 20% are like, I'm working out or I'm not eating as much, I'm not drinking because I want to look good and I feel better. No, most of them are doing this because the jeans are too tight, or I don't like the way I look, like this, I got to fit into this dress. And that's what makes them stop eating that piece of cake or put down that glass of wine.
Got it. I never really thought about it that way, and how you can correlate it to so many other things that you do in your normal life. Yeah. So what are some of the issues that women face in making this decision that may be different from what men are contemplating whenever it has to do with divorce?
I think women are slower to make the decision because of the children and finances more so. And again, that are their beliefs. Like I said, we can all find something in a reason not to take action, and we can then believe that to be true. I do not believe that you are best serving your children by showing them a relationship where you fight or you're disrespected or there's just no love. Your sons, you're showing them that's okay. That's all right to never be affectionate or loving towards your wife, and you're teaching your daughters it's okay to put up with that. And again, none of this is easy and none of it's that simple, but yet I think if we're honest with ourselves, and that's what we do a lot here, and that's what I do a lot of, we have a lot of honest conversations. And I think when you can honestly say, I don't believe, you can believe that you're doing this for the kids, but if you're honest with what you're modeling for them, that's not really for them. Not that that's going to be easy for them to have you separated, but there are some situations where the children are finally like, Mom, when are you going to do this? And that's what they've shared with us. Yes.
So sometimes the children say this needs to be the final straw.
Many times. And it's bad that it's gotten to be that point. Now, also, you may have adult children, and, our clients will share with us that they said, oh my gosh, it took you so long. I was wondering if you're ever going to do that. Yeah. So if in any kind of situation, I have learned through the years of doing this that children know what's going on. They live there. You guys live there together. They are aware. They may not be able to articulate it. They may explain it. They know, because we are such smart. We're, as human beings, we have a lot of instincts. We know this stuff, and we just suppress it and hide it to make other people happy.
And they also may see how different it may be at one of their friends' homes, right? So they see something very different than what they see at home.
Absolutely. Yes. Yes. So, and or with family, it's just that to me is one reason that somebody can give that, again, is not maybe true, but it's a reason to not do it. And it will be disruptive when you divorce. How could it not be? It is. And that's change, and that's difficult. And we don't know what will be like on the other side.
So what are some of the ways women can prepare for divorce financially?
So I would say it's education, getting an understanding. Now, there are, and you talk financial abuse, that is very, very real. It may not start out that way, but all of a sudden you're like, I don't even know where we bank. And it's extreme. And I will tell you, Julie, it can get extreme. And that they really don't know. And all I have is a credit card, and he can turn it on and off, and he monitors it daily. And it's like, what were you doing at Target? Why'd you spend $300 here? Like, that happens more than we even realize. So I know it may sound very daunting to say, get an understanding of what you got, but start by paying attention. What are you spending? And if you are spending anything, and just trying to understand, hey, where do we live? Like, what does this cost? What are we driving? What's he doing? Sometimes women aren't in a position, they don't feel like they can ask that question of their husband, but maybe it's like, well, if you bank somewhere, if your name's on it, go get a statement, like get an understanding of the financials. And for many women, that is a stretch, and they really aren't in a position, they don't feel that they can go do that. But we do try to, help them figure that out. So one thing, actually, I will say that truly is rather simple, is get your own credit report. Many women think, well, I don't have one. Well, you are likely going to be on more things financially than even you realize. And it's just a beginning of understanding, hey, what are you tied to in the credit world and asset world?
And you know what? This is just a sneak peek into what we're going to talk about in segment 2, because we're going to talk about more financial steps for women preparing for divorce, as well as 8 steps just to prepare for divorce in general. So definitely that's just a sneak peek at that. But I want to touch back on something that you said. Now, I mentioned the fact that if you are going through any type of abuse, whether it is financial, emotional, physical abuse, that is definitely the time to get out. But when you think about financial abuse, do we really understand what that means? And you touched on that. What is financial abuse?
So what we see, and in our experience, we've seen that such control over the money that, one, you have very limited access to what exists. So there's one, just keeping you in the dark, so you're not really aware of what exists. But then it's also a monitoring of your spending, which can also essentially be tracking your movements. Honestly, women in that situation, they are so, can you imagine? I know you can imagine, begin to imagine the amount of feelings and emotions they have, and fear and embarrassment and shame. And then they're like, oh my God, I want to go see an attorney. How do I do that without him even knowing?
So you said that one thing, it's a way to track your movements. I didn't
Yes.
even think about that. Oh, she was at Target at the town center. Okay. But then she went out to the beach. What is she really doing?
Yes.
Never thought about that. Never thought about that. So if someone is dealing with this type of behavior, They possibly didn't even realize that it was a form of abuse.
Julie, I really don't think that they do. And I'll tell you why. Again, that doesn't happen on day one of dating or day one of marriage. It builds. Like, think about it. I think anybody who's been married, ever been in a relationship, you divide the duties, and somebody tends to pay the bills and somebody tends to do something else. And so it seems natural at first. And most of the time it is. It's not I'm keeping this from you. Now, sometimes it is from the very beginning, but the majority of time that evolves, and you certainly don't notice it in the beginning. And then it can become more and more just like suffocating, just like somebody who is completely insanely jealous and really isolates you from everybody else. Well, it's that same kind of behavior. It's just as it is on money. And so then they've just narrowed you down. And I know we have had experience there where they just have one credit card. They don't know where they bank. And I mean, it evolves over time. But then all of a sudden, then think of how embarrassing that would be. And now really feel isolated because you don't even want anybody to know that.
We're talking to Heather Quick. She's the owner and attorney for Florida Women's Law Group. This is Women Winning Divorce. Heather, okay, so we left off talking about that we'd come back and talk about the 8 steps for women to prepare for divorce. There's 8 steps?
Girl, there's so many steps. We can't cover them all. So we're just trying to condense them to some simple things that don't seem hopefully too overwhelming for women just to begin. Because again, you got to start somewhere. So let's just start.
And you know what? That's the key, because you sometimes look at a list of things. Just think about the list of things that you have to do today, right? You look at that list and say, can I really get through all of this? So yes, start somewhere.
It's one at a time. And really again, just like, and I know we've talked about it through the show, it's that first step and then just keep going. And so these are things, now we help, and I'll tell you, we help women do this all the time. It's not very often they've done all of these things, but a lot of this work is really just getting yourself mentally like, oh, okay, I need to go do this. So you're in the process of making decisions. So therefore, you're going to get better at making decisions. And that's just something that takes practice. If you haven't made financial decisions, if you haven't made decisions based on just what you want to achieve, you're not used to it. It's going to take you hard. It's going to take a lot longer because it seems so monumental. Now, so as we talk about them, we can go through them. One, when I say assemble financial documents, the best that you can. We are in a world now, Julie, that's very different from, believe it or not, I'm old enough to, lived before cell phones and when we got a bunch of mail in the mailbox, and no email. It's hard to believe. My children do not believe there was a time such as that. However, it is not as easy because we're not getting everything in the mail. I mean, very few. So, because then before, even if I would not say open someone else's mail, but at least you can write down, hey, they got this from Bank of America. This arrived from Raymond James. All right. Unfortunately, now it's all in the email, and you may never, ever see a piece of mail or anything that represents your financial status. I recognize that, and that scares the heck out of so many women. It does, and rightfully so.
And I think about this and I say, well, they may not even know the password. They may not even know the username.
Correct. I mean, I have got such lengthy spreadsheets on every single password username that I need. And you know what, Julie, my husband doesn't know the ones that I've got, and I don't know which ones he has. Because who has time for that? And I would never remember anyway. I can't hardly remember somebody's phone number because it's in my smartphone, So I understand. That's the thing. It's a lot of what I think we've talked about and you recognize is the shame that women feel. It's like, you got to know, it's okay that you don't know, but start taking some steps and at least admit to yourself, I don't know anything. And I don't even know where to go look for it. Okay. Well, maybe you do have paper copies somewhere in the house. So, it's your house. You're not doing anything that you're not allowed to. It's beginning to have an understanding, like we talked about the credit report. Sometimes that is just the easiest place to start. Pull it on yourself just to see. It can be very eye-opening sometimes, for a lot of women. And that is just a good first step that everybody can do.
And something that you said is they feel shame. So let's start by taking away the shame.
Yes.
Because that can really paralyze you.
Absolutely. It's going to keep you from making the decisions you need to or taking action for you. That's really going to affect not only you, but your children, your family, because you're too afraid to move forward. So within the assembling the financial documents, getting a credit report, and if, and one of the things, and it's on, we have so many steps and tips, but I do recommend getting a post office box, because we might say, hey, open a new checking and savings account. Well, don't have the statements mailed to your home. And then it may open a conversation that you don't want to have, you're not ready to have. Did you ever watch that show? This is off, it's not really off topic, but it's on topic, that Big Little Lies. Did you watch that with Nicole Kidman and Reese Witherspoon on HBO?
Okay. I watched the first season. I did not watch the second, so please don't tell me. I'm in catch-up mode.
Okay, well, it is so good. It is so but one of these things, she had a safety plan and had a place ready. Well, why did her husband's phone number on the thing? Because then the leasing agent called him. So just be smart, ladies. Now, I know that was TV, but so if you're going to start to go open an account or make some little steps, be smart and get a post office box. That's what we're talking about. Being smart, not, some women I have heard, I don't want to lie. Okay. I hear you, but be smart, because trust me, he would do it exactly this way and he wouldn't tell you anything. And I'm just talking about being smart so that you've put yourself in the best possible position, because it's so much harder for us to then go back and do all of this once you are filing for divorce and getting you access to things than if you've prepared ahead of time. And again, like I said, a lot of it is just, it's practice in doing things for yourself and taking a step on making some decisions. And then in that list of a way to help prepare for divorce is, definitely trying to get a handle on what it costs to live like this. Okay, so you may not know what's coming in, but if you pay attention, you can have an idea of how much it's costing. And that is going to be, that's important. It really is, because Julie, we do have to take responsibility for, I'm not talking, even in any kind of relationship, take responsibility that, hey, it's easier not to know. Fair enough. Just be honest. Let's be honest. If it's easier not to ask, I don't want to know, I'm okay, but be honest with yourself that you can know. You can try to figure out some of this stuff. You may not like the information you get. You may be afraid, but if you're honest with yourself, it's time to start getting some information.
One of the key things that I see on this particular list under assemble financial documents, understand what's in the retirement accounts. To me, that is the one that just stood out the most.
And again, that can be hard if there's no statements coming in. And but if you have a job, if you have an account, understand what you've got there. And if you're in a relationship, we've talked about the extreme on the financial abuse, and then that's going to be a minority, and many people have the conversation and guess, most people just don't want to ask, but it's this is the person you're married to. And if you can't ask some of those things, there's a lot going on, which obviously if this resonates with you, you know that, but maybe you're not really sure. Get in some counseling. Have counseling together so that you can ask questions when someone else is there, when maybe you feel a little bit better. Like, I want to know what our financial situation is. I want to know these things. I want to be a part of this if we're going to make this work. And, sometimes that can give you the courage to do that and have some information. So, yeah, those are big things. And just beginning to ask questions.
Got to start somewhere. Yeah.
You do. And, obviously you need to talk to an attorney at some point, and you need to make that. And when you do, you want to meet with an attorney who does want to understand what your goals are and who does understand your situation and is interested in what you're wanting, not just telling you.
And you know what? I'm glad you said that, because when you look at this list, number one is call a divorce attorney. And before talking to you, I was wondering, why is that number one? Because there are so many things that we've talked about that I would have never thought of.
Mm-hmm.
And so therefore, the divorce attorney, you can help them understand this is what you need. This is what you need to understand. This is what you need to know. This is the information that you need to collect.
And, Julie, I will tell you, if you don't have any of that information, it doesn't mean we can't go move forward and file for divorce. You don't have to do all of this before. But as we mentioned earlier in the call or on another show, that it's hard to take that step and make the appointment for the attorney. So begin doing something, begin being proactive so that then you're like, yes, I have some momentum. I am doing some things to help myself by understanding what's going on, by getting my credit report. I want to touch on, though, one other thing that is very important that we don't always, it almost should be number one. Don't say anything on social media, and that stuff will come back to bite you, and that will not be good. And don't leave ranting voicemails. Understand that's evidence that can be used against you. Now, if your spouse is doing a bunch of stuff, well, screenshot it and save it all. And if it's relevant, if it's going to make sense, we will use it. But when you're going through this, yes, everything can be under a microscope. Things can be taken out of context, and those things matter. They can. They don't always do, but they can. And really, do you want to be asked in front of a judge about this post? No.
Absolutely not. A lot of things we post, we probably don't want to be asked about it in a court of law, if you really think about it. And that was definitely on the list that we're going to get to. And I actually want to talk about that a little bit more. One other thing that I noticed, and this is also having to do with financial documents, right? And finances. The list says open a new checking and savings account.
Mm-hmm. And the reason for that, one, again, taking a step, going and doing that, and many women might not have ever done that on their own. And that is not you just might not have. So go do it. But again, don't have the statements coming to the house if you're not ready to have that conversation. And also, if you're going to have it electronically, then don't have everything on like the joint family computer where all the passwords are saved. If we've not noticed, Google is very helpful in saving all your username and passwords. So maybe you don't want to do that if you don't want somebody logging into all of your stuff. It seems so natural now because it happens all the time, but if you're going to start taking these actions and you're not ready to have that conversation with your husband, then let's keep it close to the vest and don't share this information.
And also go into dark mode on Google or Safari, whatever it is that you're using. So that particular, whatever you did online, that won't follow you.
Yeah. Yes.
The last thing we're going to talk about before we go to our next break, build your credit. Now, you said something earlier. Some people may not even know what's on their credit report. They may not even realize that they have all these accounts that are tied to their social security number because they are not the number one person doing all as the breadwinner or even the person taking care of the finances.
Correct. Yeah, it's eye-opening. And I mean, that credit report, that thing, there are people who, are putting that data in, and it goes back many, many years. So it's a wonderful way to educate yourself about that credit history. And as I indicated previously, you may have really terrible credit. Maybe the financial situation is something, that you had no idea, and there's a lot more debt and you're tied to it all. It's a hard truth, but if it's good to find out one way or another, because it is what it is. So at least go out there, and there's a lot of companies that can work to help, and maybe there's fraud. That's like one of the basic things in today's world, that with everything electronically, it's look at that. So that can be one on, it's building your credit, but also being aware. And usually, so for first pull it, then okay, hey, this doesn't look too bad. We help so many women open that initial credit card, giving them some privacy, building that. We have partnerships with banks. It's an important thing to do.
Okay, you just mentioned something else. You have partnerships with banks in order to help them with this. I never even thought about that, which is why number one is call a divorce attorney. The 8 steps for women to prepare for divorce. We are on number 5. This is something we actually talked about in the first show. It was about changing your will. This also includes your medical directive as well. That's interesting.
Yes. So, if you don't have these documents in place, Florida law dictates your spouse is your next of kin making these decisions. And it does not state if a divorce has been filed. That doesn't get to happen. So that is important for that reason to, ask those questions. And again, you don't know what you don't know, and you would not think to ask these questions. But that's one things we talk about when you meet with us. Well, why don't you assign your mom, your sister, your best friend as your power of attorney as the person who would be designated to make those medical decisions if in the off chance, very, very low percentage, but these things happen all the time. And you just don't want the man you're divorcing to make those decisions, more likely than not.
Yeah, he could be even more vindictive than you thought he was. Yeah. And I know I said that, not Heather, so I will take that. It's okay. I'm all right with that. The next, calculate your expenses. This really goes back to what we were talking about before the break, and as far as getting all your financial documents in order and opening new savings and checking accounts and building your credit. Calculate your expenses. That's really important because you never, especially if you're not in the situation again that you are paying the bills.
Right. And and another, again, just honestly, sometimes that is, if you're looking for ways to feel fulfilled and it's not from the marriage and what's going on, maybe you're spending too much or not too much, you're just spending more, but you're not even really registering. It's really about the awareness. It's not too much, not enough. It's whatever. It's just awareness of what you're spending. Again, because that's how you begin to take ownership of what you need to do and what things are going to look like in the future.
That's how you'll know also what you'll need just in case you will get alimony. You'll know how much is it that I can ask for, because this is how much it's going to cost me to live after this is over.
Right. And again, it's very, we help women do that all the time. It is one of the most important things that we do in an alimony case is your financial affidavit, which is essentially the budget, what it costs you to live. And, many times it's an analysis of the bank records, because then that's how you see. And a lot of times I'll have clients are like, whoa, I really didn't realize we ate out as much as we did. Or, 'cause sometimes then you see it. But either way, again, it's the awareness so that because we're going to have to do it, it might be less of a shock to you if you're taking that initiative and understanding all the money that is going out and or coming in.
And I thought it was also key that it says to get a clear picture of this, you need to understand what's going out for 2 to 3 months.
Yes, and that's true because, they're like, what goes out in the month of December, when we have the holidays, is very different than January, February. So it's understanding and of course we work with you and the paralegals to really dial in on the financial affidavit. Any of our clients listening will be like, oh, I know that's so hard. We have to do it all the time and we work at it. But it's a very important document that is created for the divorce, in the divorce and filed, and it's relied upon. So it's a big deal, and the more you can get used to looking at expenses and understanding, I think the better off you are as a client.
Number 7 is something that you mentioned earlier, and I really want to talk about this. Social media, emails, and romantic relationships. Make sure that's in order. But what exactly does that mean?
All right, social media, just stop posting. And I know you'd be like, oh, all these beautiful, wonderful things about what a great mom I am, what a great worker. That's fine. But overall, tone it down. Don't post stuff. Don't rant about your ex. I'm just going to say don't. I'm not even going to explain why. I'm just going to say don't do it. If you want to be our client, don't do it. If you are having email, creating a new email account is very important. That's just your name with a password that is not known. Because obviously your attorney, we do a lot of electronic communication. Everything in the courts are filed electronically. You need to have an email that is just your email. And romantic relationships. Now, this is something that could be the reason, you are in love and now you have met the man. Oh, finally, he does everything for you that your husband doesn't. Okay. I got to tell you, it's not really helpful to be posting that and sharing that with everybody. As happy as you are, if we're going through a divorce, and particularly if this is an alimony situation or you have children, a lot of that stuff matters. And in addition, that's just one thing, just all over the place isn't always helpful. But, really financially speaking, if this is an alimony case and you are in love and you're going to get remarried, you must tell your attorney. Because then that's going to structure, don't, sit back and let us fight and negotiate for you to have permanent alimony if you plan to get married again. And this. And, it's like, oh, he's got the engagement ring in the drawer. It's like, then we need to look at other ways financially for you other than alimony, because alimony ends if you get remarried. That's don't keep that secret from your attorney. I can't stress that enough, because how can we help you if you're not honest with us? And your attorney should never judge you. I may say, don't do that. I very well will say that many times, but it's not because I'm judging you. It's because I want to get the best result for you, and I know how to do that. Our attorneys here know how to do that. So if we say, don't do this, it's because we're looking at how we achieve what we need to for you.
But will they not tell you because they don't want to be judged?
Probably. I mean, I have maybe so. And sometimes, you don't ask, it's like, well, I'm not going to ask permission for this because I probably know that answer is going to be no. And I don't, people ask me, well, can I date? Absolutely. But it just depends. Everybody's situation is different. And so, and I've had women, well, he's dating and he's in a relationship. And I was like, understand, but he's not asking you for alimony. And you still can date and, have a relationship And we can talk about that one day. We can certainly talk about that on another show, about a supportive relationship and all of these different things. But at least share with your attorney. I mean, we know everything. We're working on your finances and your kids and this divorce. If this is something going on, we'll let you know. Absolutely. This matters. This is what we suggest. I mean, I think that's the best advice for everybody.
And like you said, you know everything else. You're in their personal business. Their personal business has become your business because this is your profession. So just tell them.
Right.
Yeah, just tell
exactly.
them. It's okay.
And right. And again, at some things maybe like, that's fine. This is okay. This is not okay or whatever. But I think that most people are like, oh, well, I didn't think I had to tell you that. But because they're not used to, I mean, most people, fortunately so, they're not have attorneys involved in their life all the time. So they're not really, this is a new thing for them. But now when we're dealing with this, usually more information is better for us. And then we can decipher and tell you what matters, what doesn't, and advise you. Because at the end of the day, we want what's best for you and what we can best achieve, through the courts.
Lastly, it says find a support group. How important is that? Because I'm not going to say a lot of times. Sometimes people just don't want to talk to other people about the business, just like we just mentioned.
Oh, absolutely. It's finding a support group and one that resonates with you, or, good counseling. That's not a friend or a family member, because they love you and they're going to tell you sometimes what you want to hear. And they are, of course, going to be subjective, and that's great. But it's also good to have an objective support group. We used to support a couple of different support groups for women only, because there's a lot of great ones, but it's men and women, and not everybody, that doesn't suit it for everybody. I think it's really important to have a place where you can talk and feel as though you can be open and honest. And again, you're not sharing your business with your friends and family, and they may be sick of hearing it, frankly, Julie. Come on.
That part.
Yeah.
And they have a personal stake in it too, because they want what's best for you. And so they're going to share their opinion, and their opinion may not really be the road that you need to go down,
And, or maybe it is, but you don't want to do it. Again, so much that a support group, a good counselor, life coach, like those kinds of things, move through this and get that emotional support. Because, as your attorneys and your legal team, although everybody here is very supportive, it's different, because I'm looking at, our job is to see, hey, how can we help you legally, and what's the most advantageous thing for you to do legally. You need that feedback as well, for emotionally and psychologically, mentally, what's best.
Yes, a support group. Very important. You're listening to Women Winning Divorce with Heather Quick, the owner and attorney for Florida Women's Law Group. Heather, anything else you want to add on this topic today? I mean, we've gone through so much good stuff. It's just, oh boy. I have even more questions, really.
And usually that's what this does. I mean, pretty much like almost everything we touch on could be its own show. And again, like you said, for our listeners, please reach out, because that's what we're here for, is to really just provide some good information and delve into topics sometimes maybe a little bit more deeper than, we did today. And I know we've got free resources on our Women Winning Divorce website for the listeners who are looking for a little bit more information. I've certainly got some books that I've published as well that may be helpful. I do believe that knowledge is power, and educating yourself is a great first step. Just by listening to this, just like you said, Julie, it sparks so many questions, and that's good, because now you're curious. And if you're in this situation, or you have a good friend in this situation, you know some things and issues you can raise.
Heather, thanks for letting me join you again today.
Well, thank you, Julie. It's been a pleasure, and I have enjoyed our conversation so much.
Thank you for listening to Women Winning Divorce. We hope you found information to help you navigate your divorce. If you like our show, please take the time to subscribe and provide a 5-star review. If you need more information, please visit our website at womenwinningdivorce.com, where you will find previous episodes and other helpful content. Join us next week as we continue our journey of women winning divorce.
What event comes once a year and could change how you see the world around you? The answer? When your vision benefits renew. And now that they have, there's no better time to visit your neighborhood Pearl Vision, where they'll cover your out-of-pocket cost or insurance copay for your eye exam. Schedule your family's eye exams at pearlvision.com. Valid prescription required. Valid at participating locations. Restrictions apply. Taxes extra. See store for details. Ends 4/30/2022. Exams available at the independent doctors of optometry at or next to Pearl Vision. Some doctors employed by Pearl Vision.